In this video, you will get an overview of the one-handed weapons of the 16th century. In this period, a wide variety of different one-handed blades was used, from Sideswords, Dussacks to the Rapier, etc. Also, the 16th century was a time of the lansknechts, and in the battlefields of the soldiers there were also short one-handed weapons, such as the Katzbalger. One-handed weapons were thus found in civilian contexts, such as dueling or fencing schools, as well as in the military. The basic concepts, respectively the basis of all one-handed weapons, is presented to us by Joachim Meyer in his Gründliche Beschreibung der Fechtkunst from 1570. Based on these teachings, I would like to give you an understanding of the handling of such a weapon. You can build on these basic concepts to go into more detail for specific types of weapons. Two different weapons are used in this video, the Dussack and the Katzbalger. The Dussack is also used in Joachim Meyer's fencing book. In the book, it is a weapon made of wood, often covered with leather, and obviously a pure training weapon. It protects the hand excellently and surrounds it with a ring. Often it also had an extra parry piece on the outside. But there were also so-called war Dussacks made of metal. These had a long edge but also a short edge on the back. A slight curvature was not uncommon, and so the Dussack was the perfect cutting weapon. I decided to also present the Katzbalger as well, because it was a very popular weapon of the lansknechts. Characteristic was the short double-edged straight blade. Often the point was rounded, but pointed versions can also be found. The S-cross guard was the optimal protection in the turmoil of battle and protected the lansknechts' hands from the pole weapons and various blade attacks. Many myths revolve around the naming of this weapon, but more important is the question, was the name Katzbalger a contemporary expression at all? It probably was. There are a few clues that suggest it was. Unfortunately, with this particular weapon, many forget to answer this essential question before diving into further guesswork. Either way, these two types of weapons will allow to get a good first overview of one-handed weapons of the 16th century. The upper guard. By the way, the figures marked with the X show the original illustrations in the fencing book by Joachim Meyer. The bull guard. The vress guard. Bull guard and vress guard to the left. Straight parry or the cut. The arc. The bore. Middle guard. The change. The bastion. As soon as we know the guards, we try to change between guards as fluently as possible. However, guards are not always starting position, but sometimes also transitions or endpoints. They help us to remember the fencing pieces or the options of what to fence when I'm standing in a certain way. Before we start with the footwork, I would like to tell you something about our bodywork. Instead of taking a step, we can also back away with the body. This can sometimes be quicker and more effective than taking a step. Of course, you should always still face the opponent. The first step work is the passing step. Of course, this also works backwards. A small fencing step. This also works backwards. A side step. And big side steps, also called as cross steps or a step through the triangle. Changing feet. Hereby the distance to the opponent is not changed. Now let's try to combine the footwork. However, please do yourself a favor and try to be completely natural in this. The most important thing when it comes to footwork is alignment and stability in the direction of the opponent. Everything else can be refined in connection with techniques. First, some basics. We want to be safe when thrusting or attacking, not open and unprotected. We therefore close the so-called center gate with the weapon. Go out of line and out of a possible counterattack. And we duck behind our defense, which offers us additional protection. Timing also plays a role. Always put first your sword, then your arm, and finally your body into the attack. The point is guided to the target as if pulled on a string. Of course, there are smaller variances here. Here we see thrusts from the bull and the boar, our primary positions for thrusting. Our primary strike goes through 4 lines, there and back. So altogether there are 8 angles. Of course, timing also plays a role in striking, just as explained before in thrusting. The upper strike struck half and full. Here now with a step and a repeated upper strike. It's the same with the wrist strike, just that it's strike diagonally instead of vertically. The middle strike, horizontally at shoulder height. And here a good combination is a wrest strike followed by a middle strike. The understrike, once with step, once without. The right leg is usually up front for a right-handed fencer. Larger range, but of course this causes problems for us when we want to strike an understrike from the right. Then we have to turn the hips inwards, and then it's easy. From the left, the understrike is much simpler and stronger. All primary strikes, that is, the upper, the lower, middle and wrest strike, can struck half or full, depending on whether we want to close the center for protection reasons or not in order to attack more powerfully. All strikes should be practiced in combination. Now we come to an essential muscle strike, the twart. This strike hits back and forth horizontally at head height, making it an excellent strike in close combat, which also applies to the longsword, by the way. We use the thumb grip for this. You shouldn't move primarily with the wrist, but with the entire arm. The elbow goes with it. The hip movement helps. The thumb grip gives us a very stable structure from the wrist to the weapon, and we can hit harder and also catch opponents' strikes with it. A beautiful combination, a thrust to the face and a twart. To parry, we use the long point. With this guard and the long blade, we can deflect or catch all strikes. With it, we can also bring the blade close to the body if necessary. The arc is well suited to let strong strikes from above glide off. And the bastion, in its two variants, can ward off blows to the legs. Effective parrying and immediate counterattacking has an excellent counter advantage. As in all fundamental videos, I want you to get a good basic feeling for the weapon. Go through the strikes, move with that and stay stable and aligned while doing so. Try to stay alert and fluid. Especially short weapons like one-handed blades have an extremely high double hit potential if you don't react quickly. Remain nimble on your feet and always think of the withdrawal and the defensive action after every strike. By the way, I would be happy if you subscribe or watch the other videos. In addition to this, I can recommend my Dussack videos that I go into detail about the strikes again and show useful drill exercises. So, I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.